It's no secret that the iPhone XR is one of my favorite iPhones of all time. It was one of the best values on the market when it came out in 2018, and year after year it continues to stay relevant and get recommended when people ask me what phone they should buy. But now that we're in 2022 and the competition is stronger than ever, does it still make sense to buy an iPhone XR? Is it still the best bang for your buck iPhone on the market right now, or should you sell it and upgrade while you can? When the iPhone XR was first announced alongside the iPhone XS and XS Max, it was met with severe backlash due to its LCD display that had a resolution of 1792 by 828. Under 1080p. But this was also before people realized how well Apple's Liquid Retina displays looked in person, since this was the first of its kind. So once people saw these displays in person and saw that price tag of $750 compared to $1,000 for the iPhone XS, they were sold. And the iPhone XR went on to become the #1 best-selling smartphone in the world in 2019. And it was easy to see why once you set aside all of your biases. I mean, the display looks perfectly fine, and your average consumer will not be able to tell the difference, especially if they are coming from an iPhone 8 or earlier. This display has True Tone, it has the P3 wide color gamut, it has a 1400:1 contrast ratio, and the same peak brightness as the iPhone 11 and 12 at 625 nits. So watching movies, playing games, and browsing the web is enjoyable and just normal. I mean, it's not like you're going to use the phone for a week and want to sell it because the quality of the display is bad. That's just simply not going to happen unless you're coming from an OLED display and expecting to see the same or better quality. So overall, the display of the iPhone XR is as good as it gets for an LCD display, and anybody who is even considering this phone in 2022 will absolutely have no issue with it whatsoever. But it's more than just the full-size display and the lack of a home button, it's the back of the phone that makes the iPhone XR so special to me. Still to this day, I think this is the cleanest and most fun iPhone that Apple has made recently, maybe even ever. And it's mainly due to that one solo camera on the back. It looks so clean, and the fact that there are 6 different colors to choose from. Now, I will say that the durability is a weaker area of the iPhone XR, as you can see by some of the scratches on the screen and also on the back, but honestly, it could have been a lot worse. This phone is IP67 dust and water resistant, so it can be submerged in up to 1 meter of water for 30 minutes. Thankfully, it's not just 1 minute submerged in water, because I have dropped this phone in a pool more than one time, actually in the ocean as well. But it survived, and you'd never know that it happened if I did not tell you, because nothing has been affected by that on the display, the camera, or anywhere else. The ports, nothing has been impacted by those dips in the water. The front and the back are both made of glass, and the edges are made of aluminum, so it feels solid in the hands, albeit a little bit slippery in my opinion, but it obviously won't feel as premium as the iPhone XS or any of the other iPhones with a stainless steel frame. But if you use a case, all of this is going to be irrelevant to you anyways. Now, underneath the notch on the front of the display is the front-facing camera. And when I first got the iPhone XR, I used it a lot. I took a lot of selfies and even videos from the front-facing camera, and everything was fine. Everything was perfect. It was honestly nothing special. It was just about what you expect from a front-facing camera of an iPhone. It wasn't a huge jump up from the iPhone 10, so everything was fine. But now that we have the iPhone 11, the iPhone 12, and the iPhone 13, and after we've seen how they perform, when I go back to the iPhone XR, here in 2022, I am honestly extremely underwhelmed. Not only by the image quality, but also the video being limited to just 1080p. And sure, you can point to the 7 megapixel lens as the issue, but it's deeper than that. It's mainly due to the chipset inside and that next generation of computational photography, aka Smart HDR, that was introduced with the iPhone 11 the year after the iPhone XR release. So we still have Smart HDR here with the front-facing camera, but the next gen, the Gen 2 of Smart HDR is what really started to turn the quality and just make everything so much better. But with all that being said, the selfie camera on the XR is not bad. I mean, I'm just comparing it to the latest and greatest, so of course it's not going to be as good. Your FaceTime calls, your Snapchat selfies, everything is going to look perfectly fine, especially if there is compression involved, like on FaceTime or social media. The iPhone XR's front-facing camera is going to look just about as good as the latest and greatest when there is compression involved. And the story is pretty similar when it comes to the rear facing camera on the iPhone XR. So we do have a single 12 megapixel f1.8 lens, which looks a lot less powerful compared to the crazy lenses on the back of the phones today. But as I said earlier, it's a big part of the reason I love the look of the iPhone XR so much. It just looks so clean with only one small lens. I don't know what it is about it. It just looks awesome. But anyways, as we talked about before, it's not as much about what's on the outside. It's more about what's on the inside. And what we're referencing here is that post-image processing. And the iPhone XR was one of the first 3 phones that had Smart HDR since it was introduced in 2018 with Apple's A12 Bionic chip. Smart HDR improved the dynamic range, it improved the colors, and just the overall look and feel of photos was so much better. Like, it was very obvious how much better photos looked compared to the iPhone X and prior iPhones at the time. Everything just popped more, and it wasn't really because of the lens. The magic was what happened during and after the photo was taken, and the game would be changed from this point on. Now, of course, like with everything, there are some drawbacks due to only having that one single lens, and the main one is zoom. So we do not get that handy 2x or 3x button to tap to zoom easily. We have to digitally zoom with our fingers and rely on the software to crop into the shot, and this obviously leads to very poor and grainy results. So I did really miss zooming in while I was, shooting photos and videos on the iPhone XR, but honestly, it's not the end of the world, especially if you are not used to zooming in anyways. If you don't like zooming in, this is not going to be a big deal to you, but once you get used to that telephoto lens, obviously it's hard to go back to something without a telephoto lens. Another thing I missed when switching back to the XR here in 2022 is portrait mode, more specifically shooting objects in portrait mode. And that's because the iPhone XR can only shoot portrait shots of people. We also do not get night mode or deep fusion on the iPhone XR, and night mode I honestly don't use very often anyway, so I didn't really miss it too much. But deep fusion actually makes a difference in the detail of images and videos, so I did miss the sharper images from the iPhone 11 through the iPhone 13. But overall, compared to the iPhone 11 and 12, there's really not a massive difference in photo or video quality, especially if you are not pixel peeping and nitpicking like I am. Yes, they're going to take slightly better photos and videos thanks to Deep Fusion, a more advanced version of Smart HDR, again, that second and third generation of Smart HDR, and of course the dual camera setup. But the difference will not be worth the extra money for 90% of people. Now, on the other hand, compared to the iPhone 13, I do think there's a massive difference in both the photo and video quality, both from the front and the rear facing cameras. But again, if you're looking at a XR in 2022, you likely are not trying to pay at least double the price for the iPhone 13. But if you are looking for confirmation on upgrading from a XR to a 13, I think that's an excellent and honestly a very worthy upgrade, and we'll talk more about that at the end of this video. But overall, the camera on the XR is still very solid here in 2022, even after using the best of the best with the iPhone 13 Pro Max. There are just a few features missing, but if you never had them to begin with, you won't be missing them, so it won't be a big deal for you. Everything's going to be just fine with this camera. And since we talked so much about that chipset inside, let's continue by discussing the performance. So the iPhone XR has the A12 Bionic chip, which is the same chip found in the iPhone XS, XS Max, and even the 2020 iPad 8th generation. So it's obviously a very powerful chip, and using it here in 2022 honestly feels great. We spend so much time doing these speed tests here on YouTube to see how much faster the iPhone 13 is compared to the iPhone XR, but when you separate them and just use one device, you care a lot less about how it compares to the latest and greatest iPhones, because this XR runs perfectly fine here almost 4 years later. I've been using this phone every single day for the past 2.5 weeks, so I've been using social media, I've been gaming, I've been controlling my music through the HomePod, I've been texting, I've been browsing the web, and pretty much everything you normally do in a day, and I've had 0 issues so far. I mean, no issues whatsoever. Now, I will admit that the display looks a lot less good and vibrant nowadays, since I am used to that crazy 120 hertz ProMotion display on the iPhone 13 Pro. But again, if you're not coming from that, the display is perfectly fine, as is the performance. Yes, there are occasional hiccups, but never anything too bad. I've not had to restart the device for any reason at all. Another major selling point for the iPhone XR, ever since it was first introduced, is the battery life. And the iPhone XR has participated in my massive battery drain comparison videos here on the channel, and it's fared very well against phones with bigger batteries and more powerful chipsets. So it's always been a beast when it comes to the battery life. And the funny thing about it is that Apple actually claimed the iPhone XR will get you 16 hours of video playback or 65 hours of audio playback. And what makes that so funny is because those claims were bolder than what Apple advertised for the iPhone XS and XS Max, their two flagship phones of 2018. So that's another reason I think that a lot of people really gravitated to the iPhone XR to begin with, because it had great battery life, even better than the flagships, while also being cheap and still rocking that modern edge-to-edge display, this modern look that we see right here, even still on today's iPhones. Aside from the edges, I mean, it looks very, very similar to today's iPhones. But anyways, here in 2022, it's crazy to say, but the iPhone XR is holding up extremely well in the battery department as well. I was not able to quite make it through a full day like I used to be able to back in 2018, honestly through 2020. I mean, 2021 and then now going into 2022, I'm not able to get through an entire day. So we're starting to see some wear on that battery, but it almost gets me there. I mean, it lasts me almost the entire day. Now, granted, I don't use it as much as I use like my iPhone 13, but still, I mean, battery life is perfectly fine, and most people are not going to have any issue with the battery life on the XR. And if you're wondering about my battery health on this phone, you can see here we have a maximum capacity of 95%. So I never replaced the battery. I'm still rocking a 95% battery capacity, which is pretty good if you ask me. And if you're looking to buy an iPhone XR used, make sure you look for one with a 90 to 95% or higher maximum capacity right here. Now, with all that being said, let's answer the big question and really the point of this video. Should you still buy the iPhone XR in 2022? And if you have one now, should you keep it or should you upgrade to a newer iPhone? So first off, I think the iPhone XR is still a fantastic value in 2022. Now, you can't buy them new from Apple anymore, but you can buy them in great condition from places like eBay. And I actually just recently made a video showing you how to get the best deals on used iPhones without getting scammed. So you'll definitely want to check that out before going to purchase an iPhone XR online. So if you look at the current going prices for the iPhone XR, you'll see that they're going for anywhere from about $200 to $350, depending on the condition and the storage capacity. Now, I will say that you should only consider looking at the iPhone XR with a 128 gigabyte internal memory or higher. Don't go for the 64 gigabyte. And, if you narrow your search results down, you will see that they're more in the $300 range for the 128, which honestly is still an amazing deal, especially considering that these sold new for $750 just a few years back. So yes, I think the iPhone XR is worth every penny if you can get one in mint condition with a 90+% battery capacity, especially if you're coming from an iPhone 6s, an iPhone 7, or an iPhone 8. Now, if you currently have an iPhone XR, should you upgrade now or should you hold on to it for a little while longer, maybe another year or two? And to this, I would normally say to hold on for a little bit longer, but honestly, with how good the iPhone 13 is, I would strongly consider upgrading to this either this year or wait until, in the end of the year when the iPhone 14 gets released and the iPhone 13 drops a little bit in price. I think that we reached a whole new level with the iPhone 13 in pretty much every category. So in my opinion, it is worth upgrading from the iPhone XR if you have one right now. Now, you might want to wait again for the 14 to get released to get a price drop on the 13, but I would not disagree with you if you just decided to upgrade right now and pay the full price for the iPhone 13. I mean, it's really that good. But I understand everybody is not in the position financially to do that. But if you are, if you could save up for a little bit, I would honestly go for the iPhone 13. But still, I'm not taking anything away from the iPhone XR because this is still a fantastic phone at a fantastic price here in 2022. And if you do decide to hold on to the iPhone XR, or if you're just planning on getting one soon, rest assured you will be getting software updates for at least another 2 to 3 years. So you don't have to worry about the phone just becoming obsolete, next year or even the year after that. You're going to get, again, at least at bare minimum, 2 to 3 years of software support. You're going to get all the new features and things like that. So there you have it. That is my opinion on the iPhone XR in 2022. I love this phone to death. Again, it's one of my favorite designs of all time, really one of my favorite iPhones of all time. So it's no surprise that I'm still recommending it here in 2022. So if you have any thoughts to share, let me know with a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, make sure to subscribe for a lot more long-term iPhone reviews just like this one. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.